What's the meaning of life? Purpose of life? I'm going to explore that a little bit in this video, and I certainly don't have all the answers, so if it came for that, I probably can't give them to you. Tack för sist, välkommen tillbaka. Thank you for all those that have been watching the videos. Thank you for subscribing, smashing the thumbs up, and for the comments, positive and negative. I read them all. I mostly just respond to the positive ones and the respectful ones, even if they're negative and critical. I don't mind being criticized. I'm not so insecure that I can't take it. Every once in a while, you know, there's one I just don't even know how to respond to. I was just going back through some of my videos from the past, and there was one where I told another kind of crazy, freaky, creepy story from my past about a friend who had an encounter that ended up including me. And somebody responded to that comment and said, well, it was just really negative, and it didn't even really make a lot of sense in reference to the video. So, you know, I don't even know how to respond to something like that, so I didn't. But I really do try to get to all the comments. Not like it's overwhelming. I'm not some big YouTube dude, but it's fun doing it. I'm having a good time. So, you know, it's no secret I left the Mormon church. If you watched any of my videos, you know I left quite a while ago. But I grew up in that church, and I do feel like they certainly don't have all the answers, at least for me. And some of the answers they have don't always make sense. I have explored a little bit. I took some religions of the world courses in college, and when I was on a Mormon mission, you know, I got really into the scriptures, trying to kind of find the answers. Basically what it boils down to for me is family. I mean, there's my life pre having kids and being married, and after. And I was married once before for about 5.5 years. Her and I were just we never meshed. We knew it from the start. And I, for my part, felt a lot of pressure from the Mormon church. I was 25 at the time, and I was made to feel like I was an old man. And we've had so much wind lately. I hope this doesn't drown me out. So I married her. She married me. We were actually good friends before we ever started dating. And we have a beautiful daughter from that marriage and 4 granddaughters and a cool son-in-law. So I don't regret it. And I've been married almost 30 years now. But family for me is the purpose of life. A lot of religions, I think most religions, if not all, teach that there's something after this life. I want to say I have no doubt about that. Let's say I'm 99.9% sure that's true. I remember one of my kids, when they were fairly young, like 12, 13 years old, I could tell they were really upset, and I started talking to them about what was going on, and it turned out it was a fear of dying. I don't know what they had seen or encountered, I don't remember, but they were so scared of death. And so I tried to explain it the best I could, and my explanation, and I actually had this conversation years later with the same kid as an adult, and they kind of had the same reaction. I'm like, look, for me, there's really 2 possibilities. There's nothing, which I don't believe, and if there's nothing, then it's not going to matter. You're not going to know when you move on, you're gone. Like I said, I don't believe that. And the other option for me, if you're a good person, is you're going to be in a really good place. But this particular kid, even when I said that, said, well, that's the part that scares me. What if there's nothing? I'm like, but it doesn't matter, because you won't know. You just won't be there. And that terrified them. They eventually got past that. Maybe I explained it poorly. You know, I always tried to be really empathetic with my kids if they were having a problem, and try to come at it from my point of view now. I grew up in a very different era than my kids grew up. My kids range from 25 to 35 years old. I have 2 girls, 2 boys. And I grew up mostly in the late 60s, 70s, early 80s was kind of my formative time. I started first grade in 1969. I graduated high school in 81. But I just think there's too much out there. There's too much evidence from too many people, too many stories, and just my own personal experiences with things that are not good, like creepy, demonic, whatever. There's something to that. And if there's bad, then there's good. You can't have bad without good. You can't have good without bad, because how would you know? So I used to be really obsessed with, why are we here? Where are we going? Where'd we come from? You know, the Mormon church, and granted, I've been gone for 25 plus years. They always taught that, you know, we lived in a pre-spiritual form, pre-life with God. And we kind of chose to come here. And I always struggle with that too, because, okay, I was pretty lucky. I was born into, by no means a wealthy family, just a very modest family in Norway. But in Norway, a modern Western country, there are people that are born into severe poverty. I remember seeing the commercials when I was a kid from Africa, you know, with these poor kids just starving. Their stomachs are so bloated. There's mosquitoes crawling on their eyes. There's flies on them. And I used to think, even as a kid, why would God put anybody in a situation like that? And why, if what the Mormon church taught was true, that we chose to come to where we came to, at least in some part, why would you choose that? So I came to the decision in my own life many, many years ago that I do believe in God. Jesus, I believe, was a real person that walked the earth. Was he the Son of God? I don't know. I don't have a problem believing that he was. Did he work miracles? I don't know. I don't think there's any doubt he was a really good man. And maybe he was the Son of God. And died on the cross for all of our sins. It's kind of what I choose to believe. But, you know, it's faith. And faith is a fragile thing. So what I decided many years ago is, yes, I believe in God, but I have a hard time believing in a God that kind of picks and chooses who's going to have a happy life, who's going to be born into a happy, healthy family, who's going to be born into severe poverty, who's going to be born, you know, to a crack mom and be born addicted to drugs. I mean, all that kind of stuff just didn't make sense to me. So I had to, for myself, to form that believe that we were put here, and then it's on us. Boy, this is really windy. I hope you can hear me. I'll listen to this, and if it's really bad, I guess I'll have to redo it. That's the only way it makes sense to me. I have this conversation with my dad a lot, who, by the way, is going to be here in a few hours. Pretty excited to see my parents. We only see them once or twice a year because they live up in Canada. During COVID, we went 3 years because we weren't allowed to cross the freaking border because our governments are idiots on both sides. Another topic for another day. So yeah, I have this conversation a lot with them. You know, I did a video quite a while ago about the 2 prayer dilemma. You know, 2 families have kids abducted. They both are faithful, spiritual people. They both pray. One kid comes back unharmed, the other one doesn't. And it's like, okay, the one says, oh, our prayers were answered. Well, what about the other one? They prayed the same. They were just as spiritual. They were just as faithful. So for me, and I know some of you will probably give explanations of why this is, and that's fine. I'll read them. Doubt you're going to change my mind after this many years. I've gone back and forth on this subject so many times through the years that for me, my explanation that we're put here and then we choose as humans, individual humans, what we're going to do with this life. Some of us choose bad, some of us choose good. I did a video retelling kind of my really freaky story from my Mormon mission 43 years ago, and about this, what I perceived as a very evil person that I came across. And somebody said, well, maybe you're the evil person and they were scared of you. Well, if that's the case, I came across thousands and thousands and thousands of people while I was on my mission in Norway. Almost every single one of them was a good, nice person. I only came across 2 or 3 people that I perceived as something's not right with that person. They may be evil. So that person's explanation didn't make any sense. So back to the purpose of life. For me, and I don't think this is just a spiritual thing. I think it's a evolutionary thing. Whether you believe in evolution or not, that all creatures, all animals have the urge to procreate. It's built into our DNA. I know having kids is the biggest blessing of my life, period. That doesn't mean it doesn't come without struggles. We've had a few of those. We've had to deal with some struggles. That doesn't change the fact that I wouldn't trade it for anything. Every one of my kids I would happily lay down my life for if it was between me and them. You know, I've been married for almost 30 years to an amazing woman, and that's not perfect either. It's pretty good. But I'm always leery when somebody says, oh, you know, we've been married for 45 years and we've never had a crossword ever in that time. Usually to me that screams one of you is just dominating, and that's why. Now, I could be wrong. There could be exceptions. Every rule has exceptions. I try really hard to not be too judgmental, but when I hear somebody, you know, anytime I see people on social media constantly, like a couple, constantly proclaiming their love for the other person online to the world, I always think something's going on there. And in many cases, I've seen those relationships end. Divorce, separation. It's like you're compensating for something. Now, I will post on my anniversary, our anniversary, my wife's birthday, my kids' birthdays, give shout outs. But to just proclaim your love over the internet, I've always found interesting. Let's put it that way. Like I said, I don't want to criticize, but in most of the circumstances where I've seen that type of behavior, it's usually because they're trying to compensate and it ends up going south. Now, I'm sure there's cases where it's not, where that doesn't happen. As far as, so where did we come from? In my point of view, I do believe there was something before this life too. I don't know what that was. Were we spirit beings? And where are we going after this life? Let's put it this way. I hope that there is a place for really evil people. I've come across a few in my life. I told the story about coming across who I believe was a serial killer when I was 16 working at a gas station. And seeing that guy's wanted poster the day after I ran into him. Gave me chills, it freaked me out bad. That person was evil and I could tell it when I met them. This particular woman in Norway, I think something took her over. Maybe she's a good person and something happened to her. I don't know. But at the same time, I travel over 200 days a year for work. I come across so many people from so many walks of life, every race, every creed, every religion, sexual orientation. Almost everybody I meet is a good person. That doesn't mean there's not evil. So I really hope, and there's degrees of being a bad person. If you're a thief, I think you're a bad person. Does that mean I think you should go to hell after this life? Probably not. If you're, just a murderer, I don't want to get into it. Everybody knows what's really bad. Then I hope there's a special hell for you, at least for a while. Now, eternity is a long time. I can't comprehend eternity. When I think about, you have the kind of cartoonish thought in your head of eternity, sitting on a cloud playing a harp. I don't want that. If that's eternity, no thanks. I have a good buddy that passed away a little over 9 years ago now. And, he loved the outdoors, fishing, hunting, drinking beer, hanging out with his friends, sitting by a fire. That's what I hope eternity is. Now, if you're Mormon, you're like, wow, that's against the word of wisdom and blah, blah. Well, maybe we can have separate heavens. You can have your heaven and celestial kingdom, and we'll have our redneck hang out, just have fun forever. It's hard to comprehend. Well, you can't comprehend forever. It's like trying to comprehend the universe. Just our galaxy, the Milky Way, has 3.2 trillion planets in it. That alone is incomprehensible. A trillion is 1,000 billion. A billion is 1,000 million. I mean, it's just, and then we have 200 billion stars, which our sun is a star. It's 100,000 light years across our galaxy. And then there are 2 trillion galaxies in the known universe. Did a being create all that? That's not something my brain can comprehend. Maybe there are a lot of gods. Maybe every solar system, maybe every galaxy. I don't know. That's the kind of stuff your brain just starts going down that rabbit hole, and you just can't get out of it. Because when I'm sitting in my hot tub just over here at night, on clear nights, we're not in a big city, but we're in a decent sized town. So it's not always easy to see the stars. We're really close to the mountains. We're kind of on the edge of town. But there are nights where there's no moon. It's very clear, and I'll sit there and I can watch satellites go by, and I can see the stars and some of the planets. And one of my kind of mind games that I like doing is calculating distances. And how long it would take to get somewhere. Light speed is 185 miles per second. So I'll do how far in 10 seconds, 100 seconds, 10 minutes, a day, a month, a year, so forth and so on. And I'll just sit there and do that for a while. And you start realizing, Voyager 1, which if you're not familiar is a space capsule that we launched in 1977 along with Voyager 2. But Voyager 2, is farther away than Voyager 1 just because of the direction it went, the trajectory, and it got a lot of spin off different planets. It is now, this year, I believe in November, it's going to be 1 light day from Earth. It's over 15 billion miles away. It's been traveling for coming up on 49 years. I think I'm remembering this right, that it will, Proxima Centauri, I think is the closest star to us. And it's 4.2 light years away, if I'm remembering right. And it would take Voyager 2 something like 40,000 years at 35,000 miles per hour to get there. I mean, space is just enormous. So trying to comprehend space, eternity, life after death, all of that stuff, I have decided in my own life to concentrate, and I have this discussion with my wife a lot because there's a lot of bad in the world. There's a lot of crap going on in the world. I say it all the time. I try to stay away from politics, but I'm aware of what's going on. I know why gas is $4.60 a gallon here and why I was paying $6.80 a gallon in the Bay Area last week. Diesel's over $8 a gallon. I understand why that's happening. But I've decided in my life, after more than 6 decades, to concentrate and focus on the things I can control. and to try to live a happy life despite of some of the bad things. To focus on, I have a nice home, I have a great family, I have amazing friends, we get to go camping, we get, we have a nice trailer and an ATV that we go out in. I feel very blessed. There are people with a lot more money than me. I'm nowhere near rich. But there are people that have way less than we do too. And I feel for people, especially if they try. If you work hard and you try and you struggle to get ahead, I really feel for people that just don't seem to get the breaks. I also believe breaks are made, by how hard you work, and not always, I'm not conceited enough to say that everybody in every instance, if you just work hard enough, will get somewhere. I believe in most cases that's the truth. Anyway, that's straying off the subject. So why are we here? Family, as far as I'm concerned, that's why we're here. I can't imagine just going through life by myself, especially as I get older. I've got 6 granddaughters that I just cherish, 4 kids, an amazing wife, my parents, my siblings, my friends. I can't imagine just going through life by myself. And I know there are people that have to deal with that and struggle with that. And it's got to be tough. So for me, it comes down to, and this is a very insufficient explanation, I understand. And I'd love to read your responses, your comments, what you believe. But I think if we focus on family, friends, our careers, hopefully retirement for me not too long here. It's funny, I was just talking to one of the people I work for today, and he's like, well, 2-3 years from now, we want to do this. And I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, I'm not going to be doing this in 2 or 3 years. But I didn't have the heart to say it. I think he's aware of that. But anyway, just some thoughts about life. Just the whole nature of being here. I do believe it's important to treat our fellow human beings with care and with kindness. I just got back from Costco and I saw these 2 old ladies walking out of Costco pushing a cart. One was probably 70, the other was probably in her late 80s, and they were kind of holding hands. I don't know if they were sisters, or one was extremely fragile, the other was fragile. And they had a big truck, and their cart was loaded, like a big thing of water bottles. And I'm like, how are those ladies going to get that into that truck? So I stopped and, asked if they could use any help. And this is not bragging. This is just what we should do. This is just how human nature should be. And I lifted the heavy things up for them, and I offered to put everything in, but she was very grateful and said, no, it's kind of good for me to do some of this stuff, which I get. But little things like that can really make people's days. And I say it all the time, I'm so far from perfect, and I screw up all the time. But I think if we just strive to be good people and live good lives, no matter our views, no matter our religion or our politics or our view on life after death, I think we can make the world a little better, one person at a time. So, tack för denna gång. Men snackas igen snart. I hope you all have an amazing day. I always appreciate that you're watching these videos. Those of you that do, I mean, it ranges from a couple hundred views to several thousand, and it always amazes me that people watch. I watch a lot of YouTube videos myself, and I try to watch videos that kind of have some information for me and that I can kind of align with their thoughts. And there are several people that I watch a lot of videos of. So have a blessed day, and we will talk again soon. Peace, love.